Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and Iman here from the Block Runner, MetaZone, Rovi, and Mscribe, and today we're going to talk about ERC-404.
404, dude. Isn't that like a number that's like has some relevancy?
Yeah,
like
it's an internet
404.
Exactly, yeah, it's an internet like error message.
Wonder why they decided to go with that as like this is a big mistake of a standard.
Yeah, why did they do that?
I don't know, but that's immediately what I thought. But everybody's talking about ERC-404.
Yeah,
including like the Bitcoin or influencer space. You know, it's trickling in. It's like it's been a while since we talked anything ERC.
Yeah.
Right.
We all we see is BRC stuff, right?
Correct.
All of a sudden, we're starting to see ERC stuff.
Yeah, so like over the last year, typically like the innovation is be kind of like spawning within Bitcoin and like kind of going out, disseminating to the other chains like inscriptions.
Yeah.
The whole map thing, bitmaps, and you see like maps in Solana and everywhere else. But yeah, this is something that's I guess happening outside our little space and kind of like trying to force its way in, right? That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, but to me, like, technically, this has already been happening on Bitcoin, right? Because remember, when you deploy a token, a fungible one, doesn't matter which standard you're using, you're deploying one. That's that's the initiation of a token. And then you're sort of like spawning fractions of that deploy, right? So to speak, right?
Correct.
So technically it's kind of already happening. It's just not packaged up in the same way that ERC-404 is packaged
Correct.
up.
Yeah. Yeah. We've leveraged the already like innate ability of minting non-fungible assets through the ordinal framework.
Yeah.
And then we've created a process to, extract fungibility out of them. But in that process, we've kind of separated the two, right?
Yeah.
As like non-fungible class of ordinals and then the fungible class of ordinals, which even through doing that, like it's like non-support from the ordinals side of things, right? It's like, that's not what ordinals are for.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
You guys are kind of like ruining the whole premise and purpose and utility behind, or the ordinal framework. So it's like there isn't even cohesiveness among the two like utilities, right?
Yeah.
So that's what this thing is implying. The injection of like a hybrid narrative is like we don't need to have two like distinguishing class of they should emerge as a singular thing.
Yeah, why not?
At birth, right? Yeah, why not? So how do we actually achieve that? The Ethereum lads are like, we know how to do it. We're going to program this into our new smart contracts, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing that they have. But we're here to say we could do this too, right? On Bitcoin by leveraging what you just said. There's already kind of like a built-in mechanism to do this. Now it's about like packaging it the right way so that it's actually like you have one asset that actually has two different separate values to them. Yeah. Right? A la hybrid tokens. Yeah. Is outlined in our Git book within the DMT framework.
That's right.
We immediately saw the value in that, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you understand like technically what's happening with ordinals, like when you have a fungible token, it itself is an NFT, right? It is, even though that you and I might generate a transfer inscription of like 1,000 tokens, even though like it looks like it's the same like amount and everything, they're actually different assets, right? You have a different ordinal ID or inscription ID than I do, right? They're separate, unique assets, even though they look the same. And so it's sort of like, it's like you're saying, it's like we're using ordinals for like different purposes than what it was intended. But why shouldn't we, right? Why not? What's wrong with that? Yeah. So let's start with the coin market cap, right? So there's like a new page here, ERC-404. Yeah. And there's like a leader here, Pandora, with a 204 million market cap. And this is really what inspired, I guess, a lot of the articles you've been seeing and people talking about it.
The conversation. It's like, because when was the last time, the Ethereum NFT space has seen anything really new, right? Yeah. Some new technical addition to expand the ecosystem beyond just what we're used to, right? 10K PFP madness and stuff. And that's always been our thesis. Like if we're really going to enter a next cycle here, then there has to be new leading narratives that attract like new exuberance, right? Like something of interest. It's like, man, we're not going to just rehash the same 10K like mechanism all over again, right? Just because we have like a different class of artists or something, like that's going to reinvigorate the market. I don't think so. I don't think human beings act like that. We're always like searching for something new and shiny, right?
Yeah, history has shown that it's the new stuff that really captures the lion's share of activity in cycles.
Yeah, so I think that's what gravitated us towards ordinals, because a lot of the new stuff was kind of happening there, right? It's interesting. These are like truly innovative ideas. You know, the whole leveraging of data as like a substrate to like new like digital creation that hasn't really been applied before.
Correct.
Outside of what we're seeing on Bitcoin. So like, if you're looking for newness, it's there, right?
So this is proof that it's new, right? You go to CoinMarketCap, you look up ERC-404, and there's only like a handful, like 10 of these.
Yeah.
Like tokens, right? There's only a single page.
Yeah, it's just like anything we've seen experimental, right? Like
when we first discovered BRC-20, there was one page.
There was one page. And there was like one token that really looked like attractive, and it was Ordi.
Yeah.
Might have had like a 20 million market cap at that time.
Was it? That was maybe like 12 million, but yeah, somewhere around there.
Well, yeah, something like that. And then the other ones were like meme tokens, right? Like, you know, PayPay.
Yeah.
Literally meme, the token meme, and some other stuff. And those had like 1 million, couple 100,000 market caps, right? So like, damn, dude, this is pretty fucking.
This is new.
This is pretty degenerate.
Yeah.
It's like looking at this and not immediately flocking away.
Yeah.
You know, most people probably would have that instinct. Is like, yeah, I'm not dabbling in these waters, dude.
Yeah.
You know, but if you took that leap of courage and you dabbled in those waters at that time, as we did, it's like, fuck, like you're positioning yourself like in the best possible way you can.
Yeah.
Right. Now, we're not saying like to go ape into ERC-404 for one. It's kind of like, I don't know. I don't think we have enough like what's the word I'm looking for?
Gravitas?
I don't know. Like, we've been focused on ordinals like the last year. I feel like we don't have like the clout anymore to like talk about anything Ethereum, even though like we spent 3 years prior as our focus. What do you think?
Well, the reason we're only talking about ERC-404 is because the Bitcoin community is talking about it, right?
Right.
And
it's got us thinking, right? It's like, okay, hybrid tokenization, fractionalization of assets and stuff. It's important, right?
It is, and it's nothing new that we haven't seen. We've seen fractionalized NFTs before. What's new about ERC-404 is that it's done via a smart contract, and it's done to remove all the friction and done to remove third-party services to like lock up those NFTs and fractionalize issue tokens. Like all that stuff is removed. It's just done via the smart contract now.
Yeah, like we're gonna see that deployed on Bitcoin, like with things happening on Merlin, right? Like the Raft map.
Right.
That is an example of like a legacy third-party model, right?
Exactly.
Where you like you bring your bitmap, you lock it up into some sort of device,
and I'll issue you a token that represents.
Correct. Now your bitmap has been fractionalized. Now you have access to some sort of liquid trading environment, right?
Right.
That, and then you spend those tokens. Your NFT is probably like non-redeemable. Unless you get those tokens back.
If you get those back, you get some random bitmap back.
Something, just basically. So all this is like very like, it's like there's different components kind of facilitating all these different activities or movements within the market, but this is like built in natively from like the token genesis.
Yeah,
right? That's what's new here.
Yeah, and in addition, it's like these fractionalizations, systems or schemes that we saw in Ethereum, they never really worked.
How come Yeah, there were like quite a few platforms. I remember
there was
like NFTX, I think was one.
Niftex.
I am really getting old. Like I'm starting to forget.
No. There's so much stuff happening, dude. It's easy to forget this stuff.
But I remember I used to know these things.
Yeah,
I used to know like the name of every Ethereum protocol. But like my brain space has been flooded by Bitcoin. But I'm pretty sure it was called NFTX or something like that. Where you could go and like fractionalize your NFTs and then participate like in pools and all kinds of stuff, right? So you're right. I
don't know why it didn't work, but fractionalizing an asset like has some implications from some regulatory bodies, right?
Wow, how so?
Owning shares of anything where you hope those shares go up. I mean, that's a problem.
I see. But is like an NFT asset like an enterprise?
No, but it's You know what? There's an art project. I keep seeing this on YouTube, like these ads of like these art projects where you can own like fractionalizations of art pieces, like real legit physical art.
Oh yeah.
And but I think that goes through some regulation and like all this stuff to do that.
Yeah, I mean, this has been like a wet dream
Yeah.
value proposition for Web3 for as long as I can remember. So, STOs, like
Yeah,
security
that's right.
tokens and
That's right.
such. Yeah, the securitization of real world assets is like a big thing on the horizon, right? Everyone's kind of like
Yeah.
waiting for that day where, like, fucking real estate becomes like a liquid
Yeah, I remember that.
tokenization vehicle that we can now like degen
Yeah,
around.
who wouldn't want like a fungible token that represents Trump Tower?
Yeah.
Right?
Now imagine the flex,
Yeah.
right? It's like, yeah, I own 1% of Trump Tower.
Right.
That's, in Manhattan. It's like, fuck with me, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can flex your monkey picture all you want. And then, like, Trump could be like, you know what? If you own this many tokens, you get free night stay at my hotel. Some shit like that. You never know.
Right.
Some sort of crossover from the physical to the digital, right? It's like some, crossover benefits.
It
could be, yeah. So it's been like a big target for a lot of these Web3 developers, right? It's like, how do we crack this code?
Yeah. I feel like
But you're right.
The ownership and like the distribution of like shares, like that's a regulated space.
Totally. I think that is one of the largest friction points and why we haven't seen it like really.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's right.
Take a foothold yet. Yeah, because I think that is like a clear target board.
Yeah.
You're setting up for Gary and friends.
Yeah.
The SEC board, right?
Right.
So you're right. Fractionalization, that word alone is already like.
Yeah, it's red flags. It's like you got to give it a new name if you want to like play in this space, I think.
I like hybrid.
Yeah.
Hybrid token.
A hybrid token is good because it can be like a security, it can be, but it also doesn't necessarily mean that it is.
Right.
Fractionalization sort of implies that it is because that is like the nomenclature that is currently used for the regulated space.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. We'll see what the people are saying.
All right. So we got a tweet from Maniverse kind of explaining this. Is how I understand ERC-404 is that essentially is a token standard that allows multiple wallets to own a single NFT without having to lock up the actual NFT, and uses a derivative value speculation for the locked up asset. It blends NFTs with the benefits of fungible tokens. This creates the opportunity for people to be able to own more expensive NFTs as well as in the future stake parts of NFTs or even create a loan system. So that's pretty much sums up what ERC-404 is. So we have a couple other explanations here, a couple tweet threads that goes through in a little bit more detail why ERC-404, use cases, and list of promising projects, which we showed you earlier. Pandora was one of them.
Yeah, so this is all native to the Ethereum side of things, but I'm expecting like this narrative probably to pick up a little bit of steam. And maybe, galvanize some interest for some new meta protocol proposals to kind of emerge on the Bitcoin side of things.
Yeah, I feel like I've already seen some ERC-404 stuff like trickling in.
Correct. Yeah, we saw Benny chime in.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
with Pipe.
That's another one.
Yeah, I guess we could.
Yeah, so let's just talk about Pipe here. It says, did you know that Pipe protocol already provides ERC-404 capabilities out of the box, semi-fungibility, native fractionalization, decimal support, burning of the underlying collectible is not required as of the Pipe protocol specs. Owning all fractions equates to owning the collectible.
Yeah, the burn mechanism for ERC-404 is kind of the thing that's up in the air for us as far as, like, I get it. You can have a non-fungible asset, and then you can have a fungible token associated to these assets. So by you like leveraging the fungible side of that dual asset space just to extract liquidity as fungible tokens are natively used for, you're surrendering, I guess, ownership of that non-fungible asset, right? So if you have multiples of them, which one will actually get burned?
Yeah.
Like if you have 10 of these frogs or whatever, 10 Pandoras or whatever they are.
It's a weird situation because if you have like a really rare one and you fractionalize one of them, like which one are you fractionalizing? And if you fractionalize one over the other, then that implies that the fraction of the more valuable one have different token values.
Yeah.
Than the guy next to you, right? Than the NFT next to you. So it's just weird. Like,
yeah, and I think that's it's in its like beginning stages where, if you go through some of these reactions and stuff, I think those are like future considerations that they have to kind of address.
Yeah, and then what says what says that one piece of art is a grail and the other one is not?
The market.
Right, the market decides. So then how do you program one to have like more tokens than the other if the fungible tokens are all the same?
Yeah.
Right. How do you know to do that? Like you can't.
You can't, yeah. Yeah, that's where it's interesting. And some of the wording, if you go into the docs and stuff, it's like they use the words burn when they might not actually mean that, right?
Yeah.
It's more like a lockup maybe.
Yeah.
But it's like whenever you actually like have the right fungible token balance, now you can like redeem your NFT. I don't know if you get that one back or it's like the smart contract just mints a new one.
It says mint a new one.
It does say that, but it doesn't seem like a good idea.
No.
Like, cause you're putting all your assets at risk, and then there might be variations of value.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you might surrender a more valuable asset unintentionally. If that's how it's actually designed. And like receive a new mint of something that is like not as valuable. So it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I feel like
a little confusing.
So what's happening here is, I mean, we went through the docs and we were trying to look through what people are trying to explain as far as ERC-404 goes. And it seems to me that the docs don't explain what the actual smart contract does adequately.
Yeah.
And so people creating these articles and stuff, and I'll show you one. This is what is ERC-404. This is Decrypt. This basically just tells you what the doc tells you, and the docs don't really tell you much about like the actual like system of the protocol, and so I feel like this is just a regurgitation of like a misunderstanding of what the actual protocol does. And so the only way to get a real understanding is to get a dev to look at the docs, and he'll tell you is like, this is what's happening in the docs, or in the smart contract, I should say. Yeah,
we just need this space to mature a bit too, because it's only been like a few days since all this kind of like entered into the conversation space and hit the open market, right? And yeah, there's been some significant volume and activity around this, because again, I think the NFT sector specifically native to Ethereum, like they're looking for something new.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
A new speculative class of assets to kind of
and that's why it has a 200 million market cap. I mean, it's not nothing's like has really new introduced here. It's just a new standard.
Yeah, that's what that specific asset represents, right? First is first.
That's exactly right.
Value approach.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, still, nonetheless, I think over time this will mature a bit and it'll become a little bit more clear.
Yeah, and so we're in the middle of working on this kind of like addition to DMT is like the UNAT, right? The unique non-arbitrary token.
Correct.
And so if you minted an NAT, is like you minted a block. And so there's inherent value within that block number that you minted.
Yeah.
And we're going to be able to show like what that looks like eventually. So, this is sort of like, kind of extending the functionalities of what exists in the Bitcoin space and just adding the kind of the uniqueness factor of what people are minting as far as digital matter theory goes.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think this hybrid token discussions, so we have our own like interpretation of where the value lies in that, and I think we're getting close to being able to demonstrate and hopefully contribute to this angle of like
fungibility to represent NFTs.
Yeah, and what could be done on top of that, and just providing another like ground basis for new development to be built on top of it. And who knows what utilities emerge? We're going to be actively exploring that, and that's kind of the whole point of doing this, experimenting, tinkering until you've unlocked something like this, like tremendously valuable and like a new tool component that's considered whenever you're trying to build anything in Web3, right?
That's right.
That's what the DMT framework is about, and it's good to see like this hybrid token approach, like gaining value in the market outside of just Bitcoin. So keep your eyes on that. I think we should have some updates probably like in a week or two.
Yeah, I would say so. Okay. All right, guys, that's it for us. If we missed anything or we had a misunderstanding of what ERC-404, let us know in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.